Facts, arguments, and opinions. A lot of people struggle with telling the differences between facts and opinions, and between opinions and well-reasoned arguments. But if you understand the differences, this makes you a better researcher and helps you to avoid being deceived by disinformation and propaganda. So I want to talk through this chart I made called Types of Claims and Their Credibility. A claim is basically something you might hear. It could be a piece of information or an opinion, anything said about the world. On this side of the chart, you can see types of claims listed. And then credibility has to do with whether you should believe it or not. So there are testable claims, arguments, and opinions. A testable claim is basically a claim that you can test with evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's how you know if something is a fact or just a lie. So if you can show people evidence why something is true, so that basically all reasonable people would agree that it is true, then as a society we consider it to be a fact. A fact is a claim that does not require much interpretation, and it is basically self-evident to all reasonable people looking at a situation. On the other hand, if the evidence shows beyond a reasonable doubt that a claim is not true, then we consider it either a lie or some kind of falsehood. Now, I'm still open to the idea that facts could be questioned as a matter of free speech, but you need to realize that you would need an incredible amount of objective data to challenge established facts. It would be like initiating a major scientific revolution in that field. So if you are not able to do that, we are all under a social obligation to accept and respect established facts. If you want to challenge established facts, you need to be honest with your audience and clarify that your motive is to present a contrary opinion or an argument. It is actually dishonest and immoral to just throw out the established facts and present a contrary view as equally factual. People are not entitled to their own facts. So if you hear someone talking like that, just spewing out claims with no evidence, be very critical and try to look up the facts yourself. Try checking out online tools like BBC Verify, Ground News, All Sides, and Snopes to see if those claims are actually supported by the hard data that is publicly available online. So that leads us to arguments. Scientists and other types of researchers are very interested in the process of argumentation because there is so much that we don't understand, but we are trying to understand. So here I define arguments as claims that could be true depending on how much reliable evidence you have and your logical reasoning. So a well-reasoned, credible argument would be something that has a fairly high probability of being true, but the writer or speaker acknowledges that there is some level of interpretation that could be incorrect, or maybe the argument depends partly on opinions that can't really be proven scientifically. And for many scientific questions or topics related to public policy, this is about as good as it gets. For example, if you're making predictions about the future, nobody really knows the future, so a credible, well-reasoned argument is one that is honest about what we do know and what we don't know about a situation and what could happen. If you are reading or listening to something that sets that kind of tone, you don't have to agree with it, but you should respect the integrity and credibility of the person who adopts this kind of tone and reasoning strategy. On the other hand, I am sure you've frequently encountered poor quality arguments. The person making a poor argument might be attempting to be honest and reasonable, but perhaps they misunderstand what they are talking about, their logic and interpretation seems flawed, they might be a little bit overly biased, or they don't have enough factual evidence, and a lot of it is based just on speculation. Then you should definitely be skeptical and do more research about that topic to get a clearer picture. Now, over time, any argument has to be reevaluated as more evidence is discovered. A well-reasoned argument might actually become accepted as a fact if enough data is shown to support it, or a poor argument can be revised into a stronger argument. But if new evidence shows an argument to be wrong, and people still keep spreading it, then we would say it is actually a falsehood. Or if a claim is shown to be impossible to prove either way, that argument can get demoted to simply an opinion not based on evidence. So that brings us to opinions. So an opinion is a claim or judgment about something, but it seems impossible to prove, as an opinion is based on personal interpretations and feelings, and may be relative to the situation. But even if they can't really be proven conclusively, we can still distinguish between honest opinions and prejudiced opinions not based on evidence. Honest opinions have some degree of logical reasoning and maybe a little bit of evidence behind them, but the most prejudiced opinions really don't have any evidence for them. And we can also evaluate people's motives. You can consider whether an opinion is promoted to help or to hurt different people in a biased way. You should ask yourself, is this opinion just being used to advance an agenda without any evidence to support it? The term prejudice means making a judgment beforehand, before even thinking rationally about it. On the other hand, it is possible to have an honest opinion about something, an opinion that a lot of reasonable people share, and you have honest reasoning, such as moral reasoning behind it, and it isn't purely motivated to hurt people or specific groups. So while it may be hard to prove something scientifically, you could still have all kinds of honest and respectful opinions about controversial topics. So when you are reading or listening to something, try to see if the person is being honest about how they present their opinions. If you know their view is an opinion not supported by facts, they should acknowledge that. But if they are strongly presenting a personal opinion as if it is a hard fact, then you should be very skeptical, because that person does not seem very honest to me. We all need to be honest and clear about when we are presenting different types of claims, when they are factual, argumentative, or opinionated. The main problem seems to be when people, especially those in leadership roles, present opinions or arguments as if they were hard facts, because that's pretty manipulative and honestly seems like a form of lying, don't you think? So let's review by taking a look at this comparison chart created by a journalist and teacher named Esther Wojcicki. According to Wojcicki, both facts and opinions have the power to influence, but a fact is something that can be verified. It is based on research or observation. Verification is possible. It is universal and not debatable. On the other hand, an opinion is a belief or judgment about something. It is based on a personal view. Verification is not possible. It varies from one person to the next and is debatable. On my own comparison chart, I place the concept of argument as existing between facts and opinions, because arguments are debatable and uncertain, but they can be tested, and they might even be true and can be proven to be factual in the future. And remember, under free speech, people still have the freedom to challenge established facts. But please understand that that's a really big deal. If you want to critique the established facts, you have to meet really high standards of honesty and objectivity and respect for the experts. You can't just flippantly disregard the facts because you don't like them. And I just don't trust people who don't show the proper respect for the facts and don't respect the researchers who have devoted their lives to studying challenging topics.